Okay, it's time to talk about frame and shell modifications. So as you can see, I got frame number 1 here. And I milled off some chunks off the ends here. As we remember from the last one, all this junk gets in the way and causes problems. I haven't deburred this one yet, but I want to show you what we need to do. Okay, so here's the shell. Here's the front. You can tell the front by the step. All right, now remember these tabs here go in the shell. Now under the old system, this trough here had a copper strip in it and a plastic insulator on top of it. And then these little tops of the hangers would come up, and I remember when they touched this copper strip, and right here in the middle it'd be connected to the motor. Alright, so when Phil did this, he hardwired it and got rid of that junk, just like we did before. And the problem was that he had to use very, very thin wire, very tiny wire on the tips of these so he could bring them up. And because there's no room, as we've seen before, some of them broke off. And there were some meltdowns a little bit. And that's not good. Hopefully they didn't wipe out the decoders. But what we have to do is we have to widen this part right here. We need to make that wider. Now, to shave this off, if you were going to do this and you don't have a milling machine, you could cut it with this fiberglass cutoff wheel. That'll cut that part. That'll cut that all off. It might look a little messy, but all you need to do is get to the end result. Then what you would do is what I did. Now I use the milling machine a little bit on this. You don't have to do that. You don't need a milling machine for that. What you need are your jeweler's files. And amongst your jeweler's files, you're going to find this guy. He's a square. This is one of the most aggressive files in your set. And use these steel brushes. You go to the dollar store, you see a pack of these. One steel, one brass, one plastic, and they're $1. You should have these. They can be used to clean your files. Because this soft zinc will gum it up a little bit, but you can use this cleaned off. Okay. And then you're going to use this, and this will aggressively file this open. You need to get both sides. You need to get a little bit on the inside here, and it doesn't take much, and this guy will straighten out. There's a bunch of flash around these. And when I was cleaning them, I also noticed there's flash around this, that, from the factory, there, but on the bottom, we got a problem. Right where the pintle is, there's still flash there. That we can't have. It doesn't amount to much on one, but one, it will just change the coupler height a little bit, just a tiny bit. But that may be, that tiny bit can accumulate, and then I know what job these guys have to do. They can't have their coupler heights varying hardly at all. They got to stay right on. These ones are going to be used to pull many long cars, like auto racks and stuff, up grades and then back down again. And there's uncoupling that happens during that job. And so we want these guys to have perfect couplers, and the truck's got to be, we got to smooth this all so that once the height is set, it is always in the range of operational. Okay, so you take this guy and you work these holes. And I'll tell you what, this thing, if I had a handle on this, like this one, with a handle on this, you can really get aggressive, and you can get these guys open a lot. And you need to open them a lot. And I'm going to show you why. All right, now, let's take a shell here and put him on there so that you can see the shell modification that we've got to do. All right, now you see where the coupler goes right there inside this spot. Not the coupler, the hanger. Look, there's no clearance for the wire. We have to widen this, and then on top of that, now do this first. Widen it a lot. Be careful, this is thin. Don't break it off. We have to widen it. These. Then on this shell, here's one I've already done. I took my little marker and I marked that purple right there. Okay, do you see that? This one, look, you can see through. Nice opening on this one. Our wire can handle that. This one, it's okay, but it can be better. In the back, I've already done these. Now I've got a nice, this one here has got a nice opening because where I marked the purple, and that one also, where I marked the purple, what I did, I took my 675 block. Okay, it's just a wood block. I think it's made out of 1x2. And so you want to make a block that is a width of 0.675 inches. And then I would oil it so it stays nice. This here will fit inside the scale width hood of anything so that you have a way to clamp it. And then I'm going to take some rubber jaw vise here. Okay. And I'm going to put this in here. I'm not going to clamp it so hard to bust parts off or nothing. I'm just going to clamp it hard enough. Okay. I'll clamp it hard enough. Now I'm going to take this flat guy. And this one has a handle on it. I got to get a handle for this, the square guy, because that thing takes material off like nothing. But on this case, I want to bevel where I put my mark. Oops, the cap's going to come out. That's okay. But I want to bevel this. And it'll take me a little while. And I'll bevel it as much as I can for clearance. And just keep working it. And after a little while, remember the walkway comes off on after a little while, it's going to look like that, if you can see. Now the wire can move around. Now, and that modification will give us the freedom of these guys here. Okay, then let's look at one more thing here. Okay, so let's recap just one thing. You grind this off any way you can. Deburr it. This one has not been deburred yet. Then find this guy. I need to make a wood handle for this. I might have to do that. And then you go in here. Oops, this is my round guy. This is my deburring guy. The square. The square. This square, and bevel this inside right here. And you can use this to widen it. And it doesn't take you long. A couple minutes and you'll have that thing really wide. Then take a grinder of some sort and just grind down a little bit on the platform there. Just a little bit like that. So that it'll be like this. It'll be just a tiny trough in there. Don't worry, you don't got to make it perfect. Just make a trough. And then you see this bevel right there? That's, you take your square and make that guy right there. That's really important. So now let's look down at it with a truck on it. Okay, now the problem before was without the old plastic insulator, these guys could both touch the frame at the same time on a sharp curve, and that's a short. Okay, and we don't want that. So Phil had a little piece of heat shrink on here. The problem with that is there is not clearance. This thing is too thin right here. There's not clearance. The wire has to go on the inside of this little hook, and you got to put a piece of heat shrink just on the outside of that. And the heat shrink cannot exceed this height, or it will hit the underframe, and the shell won't go on properly. So you want a piece of heat shrink just up to here. Have your wires soldered nicely on there. And if you got to, just paint on a tiny bit of liquid electrical tape there. And then no more shorting. No more shorting. The wires will come through here. And we've got to bring them up. We do not want them to get wrapped around the drive shaft. And we'll get to that in the next part when we go ahead and start attaching wires. But that's your prep work that you've got to do. Make yourself a block, just a short one, fit in here, so that you can file this. And don't worry, the walkway is not attached. But you, when it is pressed nice, you want a really good bevel there and there. Mark it with your marker. And that's going to help us put this whole thing together. Alright, so now I got another frame here to do, and another shelf to do. I'm going to file them. And then we're going to start attaching some wires.